Okay, we're going to look at entrants. This is our second box, and this is where we handle all of the racers as far as their name, what car they're driving, and their initial seed. All of this goes in. So we can edit all of those pieces. Initially, it gets imported from registration. So let's just jump down to the bottom first for this one. And in general, what you're going to do is just about at the last moment possible, import the racers from the registration system. Now, there are some things that you want to check before they come over, and it's actually easiest just to jump into the registration system itself to handle this, and that is to make sure all the data is actually correct within registration before you import it into scoring. There is not a bi-directional setup. Once you import it, it's in scoring. And if someone fixes something like the color of a car or some capitalization issues, that does not auto-propagate into scoring. So the best thing is fix it all in the registration system first, and then import it, the day before racing starts. Now, sometimes the organizers will want to put up a start order well before the event or before even people arrive. That can be done inside the registration software, so you don't need to import them into the scoring to generate a start order that can be printed and posted for when registration opens. So there aren't really any options with this. It is just import everybody. You can delete them if you need to, re-import them. So once they're in, let's look at editing them. And again, this is just some test data we have. So we have these general pieces, what type of vehicle it is, car or motorcycle, the general color, and the names of the, that'll be the driver first, and then the co-driver. So this seed is put in here, and this comes in the import as well from registration, and it'll be the speed factors from the last several events. But you can also adjust these manually here. These only get used if you're doing a start order by seed explicitly. So if we jump back here to scoring home and then take a look down here at adjusting, editing, and deleting these, we could add to order by seed, by results, by speed factor, or by copying another start order. So if we say by seed, that means by that column that is right here, and that is the only place that is used. So other than that, you'll use the speed factors and results generated within the program. So you can add new racers here easily enough if you want to, and then just click Update Entrants. So we have some additional information that goes along with each entrant that gets used in the results. So we have both their phonetic names, this is how to pronounce each person, and for the NASA system this will come in as well, and their city and state. And the city and state gets used in some of the published reports. The phonetic information, that gets used when we go over to the trophy presentation report. It'll actually be put right here, right next to the person's name, so that the people that are doing the presentation giving get some phonetic clues on how to pronounce some of those difficult foreign names. So those are the two basic edit pieces. So once we're in, if we do the import from registration and all of the abbreviations for the championships and classes match up perfectly, so for example, if all the abbreviations are ARC, and then day 1, day 2, if all of that matches perfectly, then we will have correct championship connections. If not, we're going to have to take a look at them manually. So what this does is each racer can be connected to any part of the various championships that are being scored. So I mean, you could have a national and 2 regionals, or you could have a rally moto which contained only the motorcycles. And we can use these buttons to select everybody or select just the cars and just the motos, and that's sometimes handy when we have a whole large group of people that we're dealing with. So if we just refresh this and we're back here, so we've got these two cars in historic, unexplainably a motorcycle and a car racing together. So once we do that, we notice that up here we have set class and connected championship. These two go together. Every championship that they're in, they need to have a class for that championship. So we'll notice the same pattern here as far as how they are connected. We see we just 2, 2, and the 3 and 3. And if we jump back, it's 2, 2, 3, and 3. So for each of these, we want to make sure that they're in the right class, and switching them is, just like that. So very straightforward to jump back and forth between, making sure people are correctly done. So that takes care of their classes and their connections, where they are racing. Now we come to DNFs. So the DNFs, the easiest and most straightforward way to DNF someone is to do it by map. So if we look at this, we can see here are these 4 racers, and the green is where they have times. So we have Andy Antelope has made it up to TC3A and does not yet have a time for TC3B. So the structure of this is, if anyone is DNF, they are set DNF as of the first control that they don't arrive at. So if they made it through SS3, they are DNF at SS3A. So for example, if they started this stage, TC3S, and did not have a time for SS3, they'd be DNF at SS3, which makes sense. So what this DNF by map does is, at the very first place after you stop getting information, it puts a big X. Now I can make them DNF anywhere with an X, but for example, let's take this one right here, Bob Bull, and we'll DNF him as of DNS right there. So now he has a red X, which means that he is DNF'd. So we can look at this. This is doing 2 things at once. This is actually setting their status and setting the location. So that's these 2 things. We can actually look at those 2 things separately. So we look at their DNF status, and here's Bob Bull, DNF, DNF. Now, we notice that he is still racing in this championship, and why is that? We'll get to that in just a minute. And then his DNF location. So this was set to TC3A. So normally, if we look at this, it would DNF a person all the way across the board when you're DNFing them by map. So the reason that it did not DNF him for historic class in this particular case is, if we look at the controls down here, this championship, this historic one, when we get to TC3A, it's not even started yet. So we're looking all the way down here for this to get started. So essentially it would be impossible for him to be DNF in that championship, because that championship hasn't started yet. It's not part of that piece. So if we DNF'd him at a later place, like all the way up here where that championship was active, then it would have gone ahead and done that. So generally this takes care of doing that kind of thing automatically. It finds all of the appropriate ones that are DNF. Now, it's also possible that someone could be DNS, TC0, if they just didn't show up to the race. And that's possible too. So if you need to return someone to racing, you can say, oh, well, these guys actually still are, maybe they are, we set them DNF, but they're actually racing in the ARC, the 2-day event, and maybe they'll super rally these stages and we'll assign some times. So we can do that. And now they are actually both racing and DNF simultaneously. On the map, that still shows up as they have at least one DNF here. So that's the by map. That's the status that is explicitly that. And then the location is the control, the first one they don't make it to. And then we have the actual notes themselves. So I had this in beforehand, but it's just a text note. And this gets used in the DNF report that's published online. So usually it's engine blown, mechanical, off, very generic kind of information. So and that is the DNF notes. Now, if you have nothing here, if this is empty, then we should have up here a note. Let's say, hey, you have one guy that you're missing information, and then it's engine. So, and then that note goes away. So that takes care of editing the people, making sure that each racer is connected to the right championship and is running in the correct class, and then looking at their statuses and their DNF statuses as you go. Now, where they are set to DNF and making sure that they are set to DNF changes obviously the scoring calculations and how they appear here. So often you look at the overall results and you look for people down at the bottom who have sort of sorted to the bottom because they don't have times for all of the stages. And if they still have a place, then they need to be set DNF'd. And the easiest way to do that is by map. That is the overview of the entrance. And it's the most complicated piece is actually just remembering to go back and DNF the racers that aren't racing anymore, and being sure from the organizers that that is actually the case.